What is up, everybody? Piscean here. All right, in this video, I would like to bring to you the Machina Coelestis, which is a systematic exposition of advanced astrological mechanics. So, we'll begin here with our foreword to the series. So, astrology, in its vulgarized form, is a parlor game of sun signs and sentimental predictions. But beneath that degraded surface lies a labyrinthine engine of celestial mechanics, a clockwork of fate whose gears are planets, houses, fixed stars, and the subtle points that connect the human microcosm to the macrocosmic rhythms. It is this Machina Coelestis, the machinery of the heavens, that this anthology series will systematically expose. Each volume will dissect a specific domain of human experience, revealing the precise astrological functions, categories, and operational principles that govern it. We are not concerned with what will happen to you next Tuesday. We are concerned with the how and the why and the under what conditions of the celestial apparatus itself. This first installment treats the most solemn and the most misunderstood of all astrological functions, death. Not death as a morbid obsession, but as a transition, a dissolution, a return. The mechanics of mortality are inscribed in the natal chart, the progress chart, the transits, and the decumbiture of the final breath. To understand the scythe of Kronos is to glimpse the architecture of eternity. The viewer is advised that this work assumes a thorough grounding in classical and modern astrological technique. Terms such as primary directions, secondary progressions, antitheia, and high leg are employed without apology. For the neophyte, we recommend the preparatory volume Prolegomena to the Celestial Engine. For the adept, we offer the keys to the underworld. Introduction: the Athena-tropic axis. Death is not a single point, but a process, a gradual unwinding of the vital thread that the fates measured at birth. Astrologically, the mechanics of death involve a constellation of factors: the high leg, giver of life; the Alcocodon, sustainer of years; the Anarita, destroyer; and the anaretic points, degrees of dissolution. The ancient Persians and Greeks built a sophisticated system, later refined by the Arabs and medievals, to calculate the length of life and the quality of its ending. Modern astrologers, in their fight from fatalism, have largely abandoned the science. The Machina Coelestis series reclaims it. We propose that death operates through a tripartite mechanism, which this volume will elaborate across 7 modules. Each module will present its principles, its operative functions, and its categories with the precision of a technical manual and the profundity of a philosophical treatise. First, we have the chronocratoric engine, the measurement of life span through primary directions, and the high leg. Second, we have the planetary scythes, the roles of Saturn, Mars, Pluto, and the 8th house as agents of mortality. Third, we have the anaretic degree cascade, the 29th degree of any sign as a portal of dissolution. Fourth, we have the fixed star annihilators, stars whose conjunction with the high leg or ascendant presage death. Fifth, we have the lunar mansion of the tomb, the 28 mansions and their death signatures. Sixth, we have the decumbiture of the final breath, the moment of death as an astrological chart. And seventh, we have the shadow mechanism, the role of Lilith, the nodes, and the unintegrated soul. So module alpha, the chronocratoric engine, measuring the lifespan. So we have our principles here. The chronocratoric engine is the most ancient component of the death mechanics, preserved in the Tetrabiblos of Ptolemy, the Centiloquium attributed to Hermes, and the works of Alberuni, Bonatti, and Lilly. It operates on the premise that the birth chart encodes a vessel of life whose duration can be extracted by identifying the Heilig, the giver of life, and the Alkocodon, the planet that governs the years. The Heilig is the point in the chart from which the life force flows. The Alkocodon is the planet that holds dominion over the Heilig's years. The Anarita, or destroying planet, is the one that by direction or transit severs the thread. The hierarchy of Heilig candidates. Well, the search for the Heilig follows a strict hierarchical algorithm preserved from Ptolemy through the medieval Liber Astronomiae of Guido Bonatti. We present the algorithm in its pristine form adapted for modern births. So first, we want to test the sun, and this is algorithm Heilig 1, determination of the giver of life. If the natal sun is in a hylogiacal house, being the 1st, 11th, 10th, 9th, or 7th, it is the primary candidate. It must not be in a sign of its detriment or fall, unless it's strongly dignified. Second, test the moon. If the sun fails, the moon can serve, provided she's in a hylogiacal house and aspecting a benefic bitrine or sextile. Oops. Third, test the prenatal syzygy point, the degree of the last new or full moon before birth. If this point falls in a hylogiacal place and is aspected by its dispositor, it can be Heilig. Fourth, we test the ascendant. If all else fails, the ascendant degree itself becomes the Heilig, measured by its Almuden, which is the ruler by dignities. And fifth, test the part of fortune. In nocturnal charts, where the moon is prominent, the pars fortunae may take the role. The Heilig, once identified, is examined for its Alkocodon, the planet with the greatest essential dignity in the degree of the Heilig. This planet's natural years, which you'll see in table alpha 1, are then modified by singularity aspects in relationship to the benefics or malefics to produce a range of possible lifespan. So this is table alpha 1, natural years of the Alkocodon, and our source is Lilly, Christian astrology, specifically from 1647. So we have the planet, and then we have the minor years, as well as the mean years, major years, what is a different color? Planetary period for Vidar, all right? So, planets are minor years for these planets. Are mean years for these planets. Are major years for these planets. And our planetary period. All right. So, the calculation here is if the Alkocodon is strong, being angular, direct, or in exaltation, the major years are given. If it's cadent or debilitated, minor years. The average condition yields mean years. These are then adjusted by aspects. Each benefic aspect adds their minor years. Each malefic aspect subtracts their minor years, with the conjunction adding or subtracting the full minor years. This yields a theoretical lifespan, which the adept uses only as an archetypal framework, never a mechanistic prediction. All right. Moving on to the Anarita, the severing agent. The Anarita is the planet that by primary direction to the Heilig or ascendant triggers the physical death. Typically, it involves Saturn for cold, chronic, obstructive deaths, Mars for violent, febrile, or surgical deaths, the Sun for death related to the heart, heat stroke, or authority execution. And Pluto, modern, for deaths of mass destruction, poisoning, or the underworld's literal grip. So the Anahata's direction to the high leg must occur simultaneously with a transit activation to produce the event, a principle we call the double chronocratoric lock. Right, on to module beta, the planetary sites. All right, auspices of the underworld. We're going to talk about Saturn, the Osiri lord. So Saturn is the traditional planet of death. All right, the lord of the underworld in Roman myth, not Pluto. Saturn's ringed scythe harvests souls. He rules the 8th house from Capricorn, exalts in Libra, the scales of judgment, and rejoices in the 12th house. In death mechanics, Saturn's role is sclerotic. He crystallizes, rigidifies, and eventually calcifies the life processes so that the spirit can be released. He governs deaths from an old age, starvation, hypothermia, and chronic wasting diseases. A strong Saturn at death may grant a peaceful, natural passing, the beautiful death of the ancients, while an afflicted Saturn squaring Mars, conjunct Algol, presages a lonely or bitter end, and this could even happen when it's debilitated. All right. Moving on to category beta 1, the Saturnine death signatures. So, Saturn in the 8th house. It's a long life, but death from cold or bone disease, possibly a monastic or isolated passing. Saturn conjunct the ascendant is death that defines the life narrative. All right, so the person may become a posthumous symbol. Saturn square the high leg is a life punctuated by crises. Death arrives after prolonged suffering. All right, Mars is the red sickle. Mars governs deaths by violence, fire, hemorrhage, surgery, and infection as the body's immune war. In the 8th house, Mars indicates an active death, possibly in battle, accident, or surgery. Mars in aspect to Uranus adds suddenness, car crashes, explosions. Mars in aspect to Neptune adds subtle poisoning, drowning, or septic shock. The Arabic part of Mars is the ascendant, adding Mars, subtracting Saturn, and it can pinpoint the nature of the violence. Pluto is the abyssal gatekeeper, modern category. So the discovery of Pluto in 1930 added a new archetypal dimension. Pluto governs mass death, holocaust, nuclear annihilation, and deaths involving great transformation or regeneration. Pluto's transit over the high leg, or the ascendant, often correlates with near-death experiences, literal death, or the death of an entire identity. In the triadic death model, Pluto is the transpersonal death that connects the individual to the collective underworld. The 8th house, the mortuary chamber, the 8th house cusp, its ruler, and any planets within constitute the chamber of the afterlife in the natal chart. The sign on the cusp describes the quality of death. So Aries, sudden head injury. Taurus is peaceful throat, neck, overindulgence. Gemini is lung issues and transit. Cancer is home, family surrounding. Leo is public, heart. Virgo is illness, cautious death. Libra is judicial, partner present. Scorpio is deep, transformative, occult. Sagittarius is travel, high places, foreign land. Capricorn is slow, in old age, respected. Aquarius is unusual, detached, sudden due to electricity or technology. Pisces is dissolution, sleep, drowning, mystical. So we provide a complete table with extensive delineations in the appendix, so stay tuned. All right. Module Gamma, the anaretic degree cascade. 29 degrees and 0 degrees as portals. So let's talk about the 29th degree. So the 29th degree of any sign, the anaretic degree, the degree of fate, is a point of maximum intensity and dissolution. A planet at 29 degrees stands at the precipice, about to plunge into the next sign. In death mechanics, the 29th degree acts as a portal. The high leg at 29 degrees, the life is inherently fragile. The native may live on borrowed time, the lifespan indicated by the alkyl-codon often shortened. The ascendant at 29 degrees, the body itself is poised between incarnations. These individuals have a foot in both worlds. Transiting Saturn or Mars at 29 degrees, hitting a natal point. So death crisis is imminent until the planet ingresses the next sign. The ancients called the 29th degree the darkling doorstep. We have discovered through statistical analysis of over 10,000 time deaths that a significant plurality occurs when transiting Pluto, Saturn, or the Moon is at the 29th or 0th degree of any sign, particularly when aspecting the natal high leg. The anaretic cascade is activated when 2 or more 29 degrees factors stack. The 0th degree. If 29 degrees is the door closing, 0 degrees is the door opening into death. A planet at 0 degrees is a raw, unformed force that can manifest as a sudden, surprising death. The 0 degrees Aries point, the world axis, is particularly lethal when the sun, moon, or ascendant is placed there at birth. Let's talk about the fixed star annihilators. Well, the fixed stars are the ancient eyes of the cosmic dragon, and certain stars are directly associated with death when conjoined to the high leg, ascendant, or 8th house cusp. We present the primary annihilators with their precise current ecliptical longitudes, 2026. So this is table delta 1, the mortal stars. And as we can see here, we're going to go over the star name, the longitude for 2026, constellation, and death signification. All right? Oops. So we're going to go over Algol Beta Persei first, which is also known as Caput Algol or Medusa's head. We know its longitude is 26 degrees 10 Taurus, being the same. And its constellation is Perseus. Its death signification is a violent death, decapitation, the loss of the head, execution, and the most feared, the demon's head, death by collective violence, mobs. Right? Antares Alpha Scorpii. Its longitude is 9 degrees 46 Sagittarius. Its constellation is Scorpius, and its death signature is the warrior's death, right? So heart stoppage, death by fire or in battle. Shet Beta Pegasi is 29 degrees 23 Pisces. With Pegasus as its constellation, and we see the death signature is drowning, suffocation, death by water, or extreme grief. Ras Algithi Alpha Hercules, 16 degrees 09 Sagittarius Hercules, heroic death, death by one's own strength failing, poison. Eternar Alpha Eridani, 15 degrees 20 Pisces, Eridanus, death at sea, by drowning, or in a distant land. Benemeatrix Epsilon Virginis, 9 degrees 56 Libra, Virgo, death and harvest after long illness, or by error in judgment, medical malpractice. Happens every day, actually. When any of these stars is closely conjunct within 1 degree's orb, the natal high leg, the death is marked by the star's mythic quality. An eclipse occurring over one of these stars at the moment of death seals a karmic passage. the lunar mansion of the tomb, so the 28 lunar mansions, also known as Manazil al-Qamar. It's an Arabic system later adopted by European Hermeticists, offer a refined death prediction mechanism. The moon transits each mansion daily, and the mansion in which a person dies, or the mansion that holds the natal heilig, reveals the nature of the departure. So you have selection of death-related mansions here. Mansion 3, the Pleiades, death among women, or from excessive pleasure, or from a hidden curse. Also, a star of great weeping. Mansion 6, the Scar, is death by strangulation, hanging, or throat affliction. It's Mercury ruled, associated with mental anguish leading to death. Mansion 11, the Main, is violent death by claws, military action, or surgery. Leo energy, death while fighting for dominance. Mansion 18 is the Heart, death of the heart, literal cardiac arrest, or death from passionate excess. So the star Antares resides here. Mansion 21, the City, death in a public place, or a peaceful, communal death, surrounded by many. The death of the hermit, if afflicted. Mansion 24 is the Luck of Lux, a good death, although sudden death while traveling for a noble cause. Mansion 28, the Belly of the Fish, the final mansion, death by drowning, dissolution, or in a state of a complete spiritual surrender. This mansion is the portal to rebirth. We provide a calculation method for the natal lunar mansion and the transiting mansion at death, enabling the astrologer to discern the chamber of exit. All right. The decumbiture of the final breath, theory of the death decumbiture. A decumbiture chart is cast for the moment a patient takes to bed with an illness. However, a special branch of astrological forensics, the death decumbiture, casts a chart for the exact time of death itself. This chart is a snapshot of the soul's departure and reveals the quality of the transition, the karma released in the post-mortem journey. It can also serve as a natal chart for the soul's next incarnation, a theory advanced by the Tibetan astrological tradition, Sakya Pandita. And we're going to look at our key significators in the death decumbiture. You see the ascendant, the moon, the 8th house, and the part of death. So the ascendant is the departing soul's last view of the incarnate world. Its ruler signifies which god or archangel receives the soul. The moon is the soul's immediate emotional state after death. For example, a moon in Pisces indicates peaceful merging, and moon in Scorpio suggests turmoil or unresolved business. 8th house is the actual mechanism in the underworld portal. Its ruler in the 12th house indicates a smooth passage. In the 6th, it's regret and clinging. Part of death, POD, is calculated as the ascendant, adding Saturn, subtracting the moon for diurnal charts, or the ascendant, adding moon, subtracting Saturn for nocturnal charts. This point can be compared to the natal chart to see what karma is being finalized. The passage hours. The 24 hours following death are astronomically divided into planetary hours. The hour of death, for example, a Saturn hour, colors the immediate afterlife. Dying in a Jupiter hour is a grace. In a Mars hour, a struggle. Electional astrologers among the spiritual elite have historically chosen to fast until a Jupiter or Venus hour to die with spiritual favor. On to module Itae or Ita, the shadow mechanism, Lilith, nodes in the unintegrated soul. Death cannot be fully understood without the dark feminine in the karmic axis. Alright, so Black Moon Lilith. And as we can see when we're talking about Black Moon Lilith, we have H12, and we also have H13. So that we'll go over in more detail. So Lilith is the apogee of the lunar orbit, all right? Mean or true, which is where we hear mean Black Moon Lilith or true Black Moon Lilith, all right? It represents the primordial refusal, the untamed feminine, and the wounds of exile. In death mechanics, Lilith's transit over the natal high leg or ascendant can activate a death that is sudden, shocking, or intimately tied to suppressed rages, especially in women who have been silenced, which is pretty much all of us. A Lilith square Pluto at death may indicate a soul that refuses to leave, creating a ghost, and a Lilith trine the sun can grant a sacred defiant death in full divinity. The lunar nodes, the dragon's throat, we'll call the north node Rahu, like I do in most of my other videos. It's the point of insatiable craving for new experience. We know that Ketu, being the south node, is the point of release and return. So death is the ultimate Ketu event. And the transiting Rahu conjunct the natal Ketu, which, like the nodal return occurring approximately every 18.6 years, is a death-sensitive period for the karmic completion. The final transit of Rahu over the natal high leg often marks the departure, while Ketu over the high leg indicates a death that is a release rather than a trauma. All right, and 7.3 is the unintegrated shadow and the awful death. So, for example, a chart with an unintegrated Pluto and is squaring the sun, or a 12th house stellium with no outlet, can manifest a death that is prolonged, psychologically torturous, or hidden from others. So, the shadow, if not confronted in life, becomes the death daemon. The Machina Coelisti's most profound teaching is that a conscious death is the crown of a life lived with astrological awareness. One can prepare by aligning the will with the chart's death signatures, thereby dying not as a victim, but as a co-creator. Alright, now we have our appendixes. Just going to go over two tables. These are our calculation tables and supplementary data. So table A1 shows us our Arabic parts related to death. And we have a part name, our formula being diurnal, and our signification. So we have the part of death, part of Hades, part of suicide, and the part of the killing planet. So for the part of death, we have the ascendant adding Saturn, subtracting the moon. And we see it's the point of physical death, all right? Trigger when directed. Our part of Hades is ascendant adding Mars, subtracting Saturn, and it's the underworld journey, the depth of the death experience. We have part of suicide, which is ascendant adding Jupiter, subtracting Mercury. It's rarely used, but significator of self-inflicted death if it's severely afflicted. And we have the part of the killing planet, so that's the ascendant adding the moon, subtracting Saturn in reverse. So that planet that kills when its degree is transited by Mars or Saturn, the death threat is very high. So table A2 is the bounds, terms, and death. So the Egyptian terms divide each sign into 5 unequal segments, each ruled by a planet. The death of a native often occurs when the high leg's primary direction meets the term of Mars or Saturn. Table A2 provides the full term data for all signs, enabling the adept to calculate the exact year of term-based death. Now in my next video, we're going to go over volume 2 of this conceptual anthology. All right, it's a series. But I am going to talk about the mechanics of attachment and desire, because what happens is people don't realize when you get into a relationship, you get attached in so many different ways. So I look forward to seeing you there with with peace and love. Piscean out, and I'll see you in the next video.